Pat Davis has been buying up newspapers like gumballs the last couple of years. He snapped up 4 publications at last count. Why would a 2-term Albuquerque City Councilor and former cop turned cannabis industry consultant want to get into what many see as a dead-end business? Our Jeff Proctor put those questions directly to Mr. Davis in an exclusive interview.
Pat Davis, thank you for joining me on New Mexico in Focus today.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming down, and it is nice to have you in person. So we're talking this week on the show about sort of the media ecosystem and the role of journalism in our state, and we will get to your role and all of that in just a minute here. I wanted to kind of start by having you describe the circuitous journey that has been your career path. You have been a police officer, the founder of a politically progressive nonprofit, and these days, the president of the Albuquerque City Councilor and a cannabis industry consultant. So how did those things inform your interest in news? Have you always been a news junkie?
I didn't realize it, but I totally was. And after we sort of launched the first newspaper, my mom reminded me and said, oh yeah, like when we were growing up, I grew up in Georgia, back east, my dad would always take us to town every Thursday night to get an early copy of the Friday newspaper because it had the rundown of the high school football games. Everybody's obituaries were there and you had to know who to call and do all those things. And so there was a ritual around Thursday night. We got to go to town and we got to go to Dairy Queen where my dad got the newspaper. And then there was a big piece about it. And then growing up, like sitting around my grandmother's table, my aunt was a county commissioner. All my my mom and my other aunts were all teachers or in the school system, and so they all talked about what happened at the school board meeting and all that. And we all sort of picked up on that a little bit, and I think I never lost that. But that was kind of that curiosity of what's happening, who made that happen, that turned into policing world. Because asking those questions and trying to figure that out is a lot like journalism. I figured out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I mentioned a minute ago the nonprofit that you founded. Gosh, when was that with Progress Now? 2010?
Okay. It was like 2020, 2011, yeah.
Okay.
As soon as Susana Martinez came into office and all the progressives freaked out, right? Yeah.
So how did you use that role and that nonprofit, and how did it interact with the news media in ways that you felt were sort of advantageous to your agendas at the time?
Well, you think about the sort of the nonprofit ecosystem now, right? Voices has been around a long time as New Mexico Voices for Children is a good policy group. There were some organizing groups that were loosely affiliated. Labor was doing a lot of door knocking and organizing. But everybody looked at this and said, what happened in what was supposed to be a blue state? We started to see Republicans gaining ground and said, what was going on? And we saw 2 things happen. One, there was less media coverage of issues, and so that made it harder for us to talk about those kitchen table issues with facts. And 2, nobody from the progressive side was really reaching out to the news, was really trying to be an influencer on commentary and opinion and putting the left progressive message out. So that was our job. We had these really smart policy people who were working inside the room. Our job was to be outside the room, get media attention on the crisis, on potential solutions, who was trying to solve the problems and who wasn't. And it became incredibly successful, in part because no one else was doing it from the left. Even the Democratic Party at the time was sort of struggling to raise money to just hire basic folks. And so we became a nonprofit sort of newsroom for all the nonprofit infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly remember being a reporter during that time myself and hearing more often from conservatives than I did from progressives. So fast forwarding just a little bit into your time at Progress Now, you ended up under that umbrella founding a digital nonprofit newsroom called the New Mexico Political Report. What was the idea with that newsroom, and what gaps were you trying to fill in the ecosystem then, a decade ago?
Well, we had spent 3-4 years there trying just to get a foothold in how do we talk to people, learning we did polling and messaging and trying to figure out how to talk to people and get their attention on issues and educate them. What we realized was here was the end of, at that time, Governor Martinez's first term. She had just gotten reelected, was heading into the new legislature. And we saw for the first time and leading up to that most of the major news outlets weren't even sending a reporter to Santa Fe. None of the TV stations had an assigned reporter that year. The Journal had one of the Dans, the AP had somebody, but all the news outlets south of I-40 were using sort of syndication or AP wire. And so we said, we have to be in the room, somebody that understands these issues. So I got a grant really quickly and hired Matt Reichbach from New Mexico Telegram that had just sort of was struggling to gain readership. And we gave Matt our email platform of 100,000 people and just started covering it. And during that session, all those newspapers down south started picking up that coverage. And we realized we had something there. And it still exists today. It's still one of New Mexico's longest running nonprofit papers.
It is, for sure. So that news organization has taken a little bit of heat from me and from others, in particular because it does not disclose the sources of its funding. Yeah. How successful, sort of broadly, do you think that operation was in terms of the goals that you were trying to accomplish when you founded it?
We took a lot of heat, rightly so, when it was me trying to found a newspaper. So we set up some rules. We said, yeah, and I use these in all of our papers today, that it has to be someone who's credentialed by a journalism organization, the SPJ, for example, the National Federation of Press Women, for example, somebody who has a professional code of ethics. We put that online. We invite reporters to screen those stories and give us feedback, kind of like an editorial board. We did at the time, but really it was the proof of the work. Like there was a rule that if you had a liberal, you had to have a conservative. We were really strict about that. And what we found was the conservatives were also using our stuff because their name was in it. And so they kind of let us go with it because it was down the middle. We didn't carry opinion that was one-sided or the other or any opinion at all for a long time. And I think there's a piece of that matters. I think people care less, about the ownership if they can read the balance there. It's when we get into these blogs and all this other stuff, and we'll talk about that when it looks like an agenda and feels like an agenda, it turns people off, and you can't make money at that. So I think the market is trying to tell us something there.
Yeah, and fair enough. It's hard to argue with some of the reporters who came through that newsroom. Andy Lyman, Joey Peters, Laura Paskus, who of course works here now. Certainly some really talented reporters came through that newsroom.
And I think that's it. New Mexico has a great cohort of great reporters that know each other, know their issues, and when they're willing to lend their name to these organizations, I think it really helps because they know they have other opportunities.
Bylines matter.
Bylines totally matter to people who know, like the insiders, right?
Sure.
Most of those readers probably never knew 1 million online readers a year. Most of those folks probably never knew Laura, but the folks who wanted to have their story told, or when Laura called them, they knew they had to respond. That means an awful lot, and it still does.
Let's fast forward to 2020. You, and in particular the sort of late summer of 2020, you are kind of starting your second term on the Albuquerque City Council. The pandemic is raging. I have just taken a 50% furlough in my job working at the alternative weekly newspaper in Santa Fe. You go ahead and decide to buy an alternative weekly newspaper in Albuquerque. Had you hit your head?
Yes.
What's wrong with you?
I think COVID had something going. Part of the problem was I was doing work as a city councilor trying to help small businesses sort of apply for their PPP loans. And Tierna Unreinos, who had been the associate publisher there, and I had known
at the Alibi, right?
At the Alibi, yeah, at the city, and I had known forever, reached out and said, does the city have any grants? What can we do? And newspapers weren't eligible. And so we were looking at other ideas and really started talking to the old owners and saying, what's going on? Well, it turns out that for the first time in 27 years, they were going to stop publishing, right? There was no, you think about alt weeklies, and you know this, totally based around activities and events and restaurants and things to do.
Congregating.
Yeah, and that's kind of a thing we couldn't do. And so we made an offer to buy the old Alibi. As it turned out, it was probably too far gone at that point. But what we decided to do was we saw a gap. The Journal was doing as much as the Journal could do in Albuquerque. But there were these micro stories, these community stories that needed to be told about artists and small businesses, and in my district, for example, that we were helping. And so I teamed up with Abby Lewis, a lawyer here in town, and we offered everybody that worked at the Alibi the chance to come over and start a new newspaper and see if it was worth doing. And we thought we would have about 6 months that we could figure that out, and then hopefully pandemic would be done and all that money would come back. And of course, 2 years later, it never did. But what we really learned was there was some great reporting in there. And so we put a digital focus on it. I brought all my skills from Progress Now and the digital political world about how to gain readers at the time through Facebook and Twitter and all those things. And we gained more than 50,000 email subscribers in the first year just by giving the news away. People wanted anything they could find about COVID, about what was happening. And we realized that you could have a digital first paper with the credibility of a print paper. And we had taken it down, I think, to 8 pages, right? The pickup version was just, 2 folds.
Yeah.
But as things came back into life, we've been able to bring that back up. But it was not, the idea of buying a newspaper was not on the list when I got into city council.
Not on your bingo card, if you will.
Yeah, definitely not on the bingo card.
So one thing I want to talk about in terms of like how you think it has satisfied, again, like we were talking about with the political report, what you were hoping to accomplish there, those gaps you talked about. You told my friend Alex DeVore, who's the culture editor at the Santa Fe Reporter at the time, that one of the things you really felt like the Journal was falling down on were the sort of deeper dive, heavy investigative pieces. Do you think folks have seen as many of those in the paper, which is what you rebranded the Alibi into essentially, as you had hoped at the beginning?
At the very beginning, I think we did. There were opportunities with a lot of nonprofit grant dollars to sort of keep newspapers afloat, and a lot of them sort of winked and nod and let us say that we were the continuation of the Alibi for their grant purposes, which was huge. Like, this wouldn't have happened without nonprofit journalism support. But when you look at that first year, right, we won the best right-wing reporting from AAN, which is the Association of Alternative Newspapers, the alt weeklies. Best right-wing reporting for the day after Couy Griffin showed up in the U.S. Capitol. We grabbed those videos before he deleted them, and that literally started his path. Was from the newsroom at the paper. That reporting used in the impeachment trial of Donald Trump from an Albuquerque alt weekly that had been in business about 6 months. I think we saw that we were doing that over and over again. John Sims, a great Native American reporter from Acoma, won national awards for writing about missing, murdered, and indigenous women. Oh, by the way, just last week won his 2nd national award for best continuing coverage in the country by the New Mexico National Federation of Press Women for that topic. So what we saw was we can win awards because there are good journalists here. I'll say what the paper has really struggled with is keeping that going because it's pretty much grant driven. We don't ask for subscriptions. Advertisers support most of the event coverage and the arts coverage. But being able to pay a reporter $40,000 or $50,000 a year long enough to get into an issue is hard to come by in New Mexico.
As we were talking about before we sat down and turned the cameras on, you said to me, you guys are expensive, which we are.
Yes, you are reporters don't get paid very much, but all the things that go with them,
That's right.
very
It costs
expensive.
money to produce this.